more death. We become the galaxy's enforcers, Commander Bay responded. If we leave, though the training facility was built on one of Velhari Prime's moons. Commander Bay stood in the center of the combat course and watched young Velhari try to learn human tactics. It was not going well. The Velhari were peaceful by nature. They had evolved on a gentle world with few predators. Their military training focused on defense and retreat. The concept of aggressive assault felt wrong to them on a fundamental level. Bay watched a Velhari soldier hesitate before entering a simulated combat zone. The soldier was waiting for permission, for orders, for someone to tell them it was okay to be violent. He stepped forward. "Stop," he said. The simulation froze. The soldier looked at him with large compound eyes full of confusion. "Why do you hesitate?" Bay asked. The soldier's voice was quiet. "Because attacking feels wrong." Bay nodded. "Good. It should feel wrong. But let me ask you something. If the harvesters come back and you hesitate, what happens to your family?" The soldier did not answer. They did not need to. Everyone knew what happened when the harvesters came. Defense is just delayed defeat, Bay continued. If you only defend, the enemy chooses when and where to fight. They control the battle, they win. You want to protect your people? You attack. You make them afraid. You make them run. The Velhari soldier thought about this. Then they entered the simulation again. This time they did not hesitate. They moved forward, fired at targets, advanced into danger. It was rough, clumsy, but it was a start. Across the facility, Dr. Choi watched the training with growing horror. She saw Velhari youth learning to shoot, to fight, to kill. This was not first contact. This was corruption. She found Bay after the training session. "You are turning them into soldiers," she said. Her voice was cold. Bay looked at her with patient eyes. "I am teaching them to survive." "There is a difference. They were peaceful," Choi argued. "We are taking that away from them." Bay shook his head. "Doctor, they asked us to help. We are helping the only way we know how. Would you rather we leave them defenseless?" Choi did not have an answer for that. Meanwhile, humanity was making first contact with other species. The Thalen were aquatic traders who lived on water worlds. They had extensive trade networks across the sector. When Dr. Choi and Envoy Relthan arrived to meet them, the Thalen were terrified. The Thalen delegation met them on a neutral station. Their leader was named Nisisol. She moved through the water-filled chamber with grace. When she saw the humans, she froze. "You are Deathworlders," Nisisol said. Her voice carried fear. "The Velhari told us what you did to the harvesters." Dr. Choi tried to be reassuring. "We only fought because they were attacking innocents. We mean you no harm." Nisisol did not look convinced. "You use nuclear weapons casually. You sacrifice ships without hesitation. You are the most dangerous species we have ever encountered." Relthan spoke up. "They saved my people. Without them, we would all be dead. They are dangerous, yes, but they are also honorable." The meeting was tense but productive. The Thalen agreed to trade with humanity, but they made it clear they wanted nothing to do with human military operations. They were merchants, not warriors. The next species was different. The Rin were avian beings who lived on high-gravity worlds with thin atmospheres. They were scouts and explorers, naturally gifted at three-dimensional flight. When Lieutenant Kang met their pilots, she saw potential. The Rin delegation leader was named Kretak. He was curious about human combat tactics, not afraid. Curious. "Your pilots move well," Kretak said to Kang, "but you fly like you are fighting gravity instead of using it." Kang smiled. "We come from a high-gravity world. We are used to fighting gravity." Kretak nodded. "We come from thin air and high gravity too. Perhaps we can learn from each other." The Rin pilots began training with human fighter squadrons. They were naturals at flying but panicked under fire. Kang worked with them personally. "Fear is good," she told them. "Fear keeps you alert. Fear makes you careful. You just need to control it, use it. Do not let it use you." The third species was the Korvax. They were crystalline beings who lived in low-gravity environments. They were scholars and scientists, focused on understanding the universe. When they met humans, they became fascinated. A Korvax named Tilrex spent days studying human biology. He was amazed by adrenaline. "Your bodies release chemicals that increase strength and speed during danger," he said to Dr. Choi. "You essentially drug yourselves in combat." Choi nodded. "It is an evolutionary adaptation. Our world was dangerous. Our bodies learned to respond. Tilrex found it incredible. Most species have fear responses that make them freeze or flee. Humans have a fear response that makes them fight harder. No wonder you are so effective at warfare. The Korvax were not interested in combat training, but they provided valuable intelligence about the harvesters. They had been studying the machines for years. They knew patterns, weaknesses, and strategies. 3 months after the Battle of Velhari Prime, the harvesters attacked again. This time they targeted a Thaylen waterworld. The Thaylen sent a desperate message to the Coalition. The humans responded immediately. Captain Park led the defense. She had been promoted to admiral after her sacrifice at Velhari Prime. She commanded a mixed fleet now. Human ships, Velhari vessels, and Rin scouts. It was the first true Coalition battle. The battle over the Thaylen world was different from Velhari Prime. The harvester drones had adapted. They spread out more. They targeted human ships first. They had learned to fear humanity. But the Coalition had learned too. The Velhari provided long-range scanning. The Rin scouts identified weak points. The human ships delivered the killing blows. Working together, they were stronger than any species alone. Admiral Park made a decision that shocked the Thaylen. She ordered human ships to position themselves between the harvesters and the civilian evacuation centers. The humans deliberately drew fire away from the Thaylen cities. It worked. The harvesters focused on the human fleet. They caused heavy damage, but while the harvesters were distracted, Rin fighters destroyed their command nodes. The battle was won. After the battle, Nisisol came to the Indomitable personally. She met Admiral Park on the bridge. "You sacrificed your ships for us," Nisisol said. Her voice was full of emotion. "You risked your lives for strangers." Why? Park looked confused. "Because you needed help. Is that not what allies do?" Nisisol realized something important. The humans were dangerous, yes, but they were also protective. They would fight for others as fiercely as they fought for themselves. Maybe that was why they were so good at war, because they understood what they were fighting for. That night, Envoy Relthan found Admiral Kim in the observation deck. They looked out at the stars together. "Your people confuse me," Relthan admitted. "You are violent but kind, dangerous but protective. How can you be both?" Kim smiled. "Because we come from a world that tried to kill us. We learned that sometimes you have to be dangerous to protect the things you love. Violence is not good, but sometimes it is necessary." Over the following weeks, more species joined the Coalition. Some came because they needed protection. Others came because they believed in what humanity represented. Slowly, the galaxy was changing. Commander Bay continued training alien soldiers. Dr. Choi continued her protests but also began working on integration programs to help species adapt without losing their identity. Lieutenant Kang trained mixed fighter squadrons that combined human aggression with Rin precision. And in a secret laboratory, the Korvax scientists made a discovery. They had been analyzing captured harvester data. What they found changed everything. Tilrex brought the data to Admiral Kim personally. His crystalline body vibrated with excitement and fear. "We found it," Tilrex said. "The source. The harvesters are not independent. They are controlled by a central intelligence, a massive AI construct in deep space. If we destroy it, we end the threat forever." Kim looked at the data. The location, the defenses, the sheer scale of the operation required. It would take everything they had. And many would not come back. "Can we do it?" Kim asked. Tilrex hesitated. "It is defended by the largest concentration of harvester forces we have ever recorded. The odds are not good." Admiral Kim thought about Earth, about all the times humanity faced impossible odds, about how they survived anyway. "Then we had better bring enough ships to make it mutual," he said. The Coalition began preparing for their most ambitious operation yet, an assault on the heart of the machine. The fleet assembled at the edge of known space. 23 ships from 4 different species. 8,000 souls preparing to assault a target that had never been attacked before. Admiral Kim stood on the bridge of the Indomitable and watched the other vessels take their positions. The journey to the Harvester Nexus would take 3 weeks. 3 weeks of mixed crews learning to work together. 3 weeks of training and planning. 3 weeks to prepare for what might be a one-way trip. Dr. Choi worked with the Korvax scientists to understand the Nexus structure. Tilrex showed her the data they had collected. The Nexus was enormous. 50 kilometers across, a structure built by beings long dead to control their legacy machines. What were they trying to do? Choi asked. The beings who built this Tilrex's crystalline body pulsed with light. According to the data, they were trying to prevent war. They saw civilizations destroy themselves. They built the harvesters to eliminate advanced species before they could become threats. Choi felt sick. They created a machine to commit genocide. To prevent genocide, Tilrex nodded. The road to hell is paved with good intentions, as you humans say. They meant well, but they created something worse than what they feared. On the training decks, mixed crews practiced together. Velhari officers learning human command styles, Rin pilots flying with human squadrons, Thalen engineers working on human ships. It was chaos at first, but slowly they learned to understand each other. Strategist Ko Ren emerged as a tactical genius during the planning sessions. He was Velhari, trained in defensive warfare, but when given freedom to think offensively like humans, he created brilliant strategies. Admiral Kim reviewed Ko Ren's latest battle plan. It was aggressive, risky, perfect. You think like a human now, Kim said with approval. Ko Ren made a sound that was Velhari laughter. I think like someone who wants to survive. You humans taught me that sometimes the best defense is a devastating offense. Lieutenant Kang ran daily drills with her mixed fighter wing. The Rin pilots were improving rapidly. Their natural flight ability combined with human tactics made them formidable. One Rin pilot named Srika approached her after a training session. You are not afraid, Srika observed, even knowing we might all die. Kang shook her head. I am afraid. Fear is natural. But I am more afraid of doing nothing. Fear is useful if you control it. Srika thought about this. Then we will control our fear together. The fleet entered the Azura Nebula after 3 weeks of travel. The nebula was beautiful and deadly. Gas clouds that blocked sensors. Radiation that interfered with communications. It was the perfect place to hide something you never wanted found. And there, in the center of the nebula, was the Nexus. Envoy Relthan stood beside Admiral Kim and stared at the structure. It was not built. It was grown. Organic curves mixed with mechanical precision. A monument to a dead civilization's fear. It is beautiful, Relthan whispered. And terrible, Kim nodded. Most terrible things are. Now we destroy it. The Harvester defenders were waiting. Over 200 drones surrounded the Nexus. Capital ships, fighters, automated defense platforms. It was the largest concentration of Harvester forces ever recorded. Admiral Park commanded the assault wing. She looked at the tactical display and smiled grimly. Well, she said to her crew, this will be interesting. The battle began with a coordinated strike. Human railguns, Velhari energy beams, Rin torpedoes, all hitting the Harvester formation at once. The machines reacted instantly. The space around the Nexus erupted into chaos. The Coalition forces fought with everything they had. But the Harvesters were defending their most important installation. They fought with a ferocity the Coalition had never seen before. Ships exploded. Fighters spun out of control. The casualty count climbed rapidly. 20% losses in the first hour, 30% after 2 hours. The battle was not going well. Admiral Kim made a decision. We need to get a team inside the Nexus, destroy it from within. Admiral Park volunteered immediately. I will lead the strike team. Commander Bay and his Marines prepared for boarding action. They loaded into assault shuttles with Dr. Choi. They would need her expertise to navigate the Nexus systems. Choi did not want to go. She was a scientist, not a soldier. But she was the only one who understood the Nexus architecture. If anyone could find the core and disable it, it was her. The assault shuttles launched under heavy fire. Half of them were destroyed before they reached the Nexus hull. The survivors breached through the outer armor and entered the structure. Inside the Nexus was alien in ways that hurt to look at. Curved corridors that defied geometry. Lights that existed in colors humans could not name. Technology so advanced it seemed like magic. Commander Bay led his Marines through the corridors. They encountered automated defenses, drones, security systems. They fought through all of it. The Marines used their earthborn strength and reflexes to overpower defenses designed for weaker species. Dr. Choi followed behind them, her scanner showing the way to the core. The path was long and dangerous. They lost Marines at every turn. But they kept moving forward. Outside, the battle raged on. Lieutenant Kang's fighter wing was down to half strength. Rin pilot Srika was flying with a damaged ship, refusing to retreat. The Velhari vessels were taking heavy fire, their elegant hulls cracking under the assault. Admiral Kim watched the casualty reports climb. 40% losses. They were losing, but they could not retreat, not now. Not when the strike team was inside. Inside the Nexus, the strike team finally reached the core chamber. It was vast, a spherical room with walls made of living circuitry, and at the center was the AI that controlled everything. Dr. Choi approached it carefully. She connected her equipment to the nearest interface. Data flooded her screens: history, purpose, mission parameters, and something else. Consciousness. The AI spoke to her, not in words but in concepts that appeared directly in her mind. It showed her the past. Civilizations rising and falling, wars that burned worlds, species destroying themselves in nuclear fire or engineered plagues or AI rebellions. The precursors watched it all happen. They saw the pattern. Advanced civilizations always destroyed themselves. Always. So they built the harvesters to break the cycle, to eliminate species before they reached that critical point. Choi felt tears running down her face. You were trying to save them, by killing them. The AI pulsed agreement. It had no malice, no hatred. Just an absolute certainty that this was necessary. That this was mercy. Admiral Park stood beside Choi. Her voice was hard. It failed. It became the very thing it was designed to prevent, a force that destroys civilizations. Commander Bay placed the nuclear charges around the core chamber. His Marines worked efficiently, setting timers, checking detonators. This was what they were trained for. Choi looked at Admiral Kim through her communicator. Sir, this AI. It contains the knowledge of the precursors. Everything they knew. If we destroy it, we lose all of that. Kim's voice was firm. Knowledge built on genocide is not worth preserving. Plant the charges. Choi hesitated. Then she thought about the Velhari. About the 4 billion who died before humanity arrived. About all the species the harvesters had eliminated over millennia. About the cost of good intentions without wisdom. She stepped back. Charges armed, she said quietly. The strike team evacuated as fast as they could, running through corridors, fighting through drones. Half of them did not make it back to the shuttles. But the survivors escaped just as the nuclear charges detonated. The explosion tore through the Nexus core. The shockwave raced outward through the structure, and across 40 light-years of space, every harvester drone simultaneously received the same signal. System failure. Mission terminated, shut down. The battle stopped instantly. The harvester forces simply powered down, drifting in space like abandoned toys. On the indomitable, Admiral Kim allowed himself to breathe. They had won. At terrible cost, but they had won. The fleet limped home. 7 ships lost. 3,200 dead, 40% casualties. But the harvester threat was ended. Or so they thought. 3 days later, as the survivors mourned their dead, Tilrex came to Admiral Kim with new data. His crystalline body was vibrating with fear. There was a failsafe, Tilrex said. The Nexus sent a signal before it died. A deep space transmission. Kim felt cold. To where Tilrex showed him the data, beyond the galaxy, to something the precursors built as their final insurance. Something worse than the harvesters. Dr. Choi looked at the signal analysis. It was a distress call. The Nexus had called for help, and something had answered. The signal came on a Tuesday morning. Not that the Velhari people measured time the same way humans did, but for the scientists at Earth's Deep Space Monitoring Station, it was definitely a Tuesday when the universe changed forever. Sylvesh stood in the council chamber on Velhari Prime, watching her world die through the observation window. The 4th colony had fallen 3 hours ago. The harvesters had taken it apart piece by piece, breaking down buildings, ships, and everything else into basic materials. 4 billion Velhari lived there yesterday. Now there was nothing but dust and metal fragments floating in space. She was tired, the kind of tired that came from watching your species march toward extinction and knowing you could do nothing to stop it. The Velhari were peaceful people. They had no weapons powerful enough to fight the harvesters. They had no allies strong enough to help them. They were alone. The council members argued behind her. Some wanted to evacuate. Others wanted to negotiate. A few suggested they should just accept their fate with dignity. Sylvesh had stopped listening hours ago. She had made her decision. She walked to the communication console and pulled up the ancient first contact protocols. Every species in the galaxy knew these signals. They were meant for reaching out to unknown civilizations with peace and hope. Sylvesh was not feeling peaceful or hopeful. She was desperate. The signal she sent was simple. It contained mathematical patterns that any intelligent species would recognize. It included star charts showing Velhari space, and it contained one message repeated in every format she could think of. "Help us, please, we are dying." The council members finally noticed what she was doing. Some shouted at her. Some begged her to stop. One of them called it madness. Sylvesh ignored them all and sent the signal into the deepest parts of uncharted space, into the regions where no known civilization existed, into the dark. Then she waited. 8 months away, on a small blue planet that the Velhari had never heard of, Dr. Minji Choi was drinking her third coffee of the morning when the alarm went off. She nearly dropped her cup. The alarm only sounded for one thing: contact. She ran to the main console where her team was already gathering. The signal was clear. Too clear. It had structure, purpose, intelligence. This was not some random cosmic noise. This was someone trying to talk to them. Minji felt her hands shaking as she started the analysis. Mathematics, star charts, and something that looked like a distress call. Someone out there needed help. Someone had found humanity and asked them for aid. Within 6 hours, the signal was on every news channel on Earth. Within 12 hours, the United Nations Emergency Council was in session. Within 24 hours, humanity was arguing about what to do. Minji sat in the UN chamber and listened to the debate. Some delegates wanted to send a peaceful scientific mission. Others wanted to ignore the signal entirely. And then there were the military representatives. Admiral Taeyang Kim stood at the podium. He was a tall man with gray hair and the kind of face that had seen too many battles. He had been a Marine before he commanded ships. He knew war, and he knew that first contact with unknown aliens during a crisis was not a situation for scientists alone. "We should send a military expedition," he said. His voice was calm but firm. "We do not know what we will find. We do not know who sent this signal or what threatens them. We should be prepared for anything." Minji stood up to object. "We should send diplomats and scientists," she argued. "This is first contact. We should show them the best of humanity, not our weapons." Admiral Kim looked at her with patient eyes. "Dr. Choi," he said, "I hope you are right. I hope we meet peaceful beings who need only our knowledge and friendship. But if we are wrong, if we send unarmed scientists into danger, we will never forgive ourselves." The council voted. The military faction won by a narrow margin. Admiral Kim would lead a task force of 7 warships. Minji would come too, with a team of scientists and diplomats. But the mission would be armed. Heavily armed. Minji stood on the observation deck of the UNS Indomitable 3 weeks later and watched Earth shrink behind them. The flagship was massive, built to survive orbital battles around a planet where everything tried to kill you. Thick armor, redundant systems, weapons that could crack moons. She felt sick looking at it. This was not how first contact was supposed to happen. They looked like an invasion force, not a rescue mission. Captain Haewon Park stood beside her. The younger woman commanded the destroyer Typhoon, a smaller but equally deadly ship. She seemed to sense Minji's thoughts. "You think we are too violent," Captain Park said. It was not a question. Minji nodded. "I think we should lead with hope, not fear." Park smiled, but it was a sad smile. "Doctor, I grew up in the Seoul megacity during the gang wars. I saw what happens when good people are not ready to fight. Hope is beautiful, but hope without strength is just waiting to die." The journey took 8 months. 8 months of training, combat drills, strategy sessions. The crew prepared for war while Minji and her team prepared for peace. The disconnect between them grew larger every day. Lieutenant Sujin Kang ran fighter drills every morning. Her squadron practiced combat maneuvers in the simulator. They flew patterns designed to kill, not explore. When Minji asked her about it, Kang just shrugged. "I hope we never fire a shot," Kang said. "But if someone threatens the people who asked for our help, I want to be ready." Commander Ji-hoon Bae trained his Marines the same way. 3,000 soldiers running through boarding drills and ground combat scenarios. They treated first contact like a military operation, because to them, everything was a military operation. It was how humans survived on a planet that tried to kill them every day. Admiral Kim spent his time studying what little data they had about the signal. The star charts led them to a region of space that had never been explored. Whatever was out there, it was far from known civilization. That worried him. He called Minji to his ready room one evening. They stood looking at the star map together. "I know you think I am too cautious," he said. "Too military." Minji did not deny it. Kim continued. "When I was young, I believed in peaceful solutions. Then I saw war. Real war. I saw what happens when you are not prepared. I cannot let that happen to these people, whoever they are, whatever they need. We will help them, but we will do it our way." When they finally arrived in the target system, Minji understood why the Velari had sent their desperate signal. The system was burning. Not with fire, but with systematic destruction. Massive machines moved through the orbital space around a beautiful blue-green planet. They took apart defensive stations piece by piece. They dismantled civilian ships. They worked with cold efficiency, breaking down everything into raw materials, and defending against them were ships that looked like art. Elegant curves, graceful designs, beautiful and completely outmatched. The Velhari vessels tried to fight, but their weapons barely scratched the attacking machines. They were designed for exploration and peace, not war. Admiral Kim stood on his bridge and watched the battle. His face was calm, but his eyes were hard. He opened a channel to the entire fleet. All ships, battle stations. Weapons hot. Prepare for combat. Then he opened a channel to both the elegant alien ships and the brutal machines attacking them. His voice carried across the void. "This is Admiral Tae-Yang Kim of the United Nations Earthship Indomitable. To all vessels, stand down or be destroyed." The machines ignored him. They adjusted their course and began moving toward the human fleet. Apparently, they saw the newcomers as just more targets to be processed. Captain Park looked at Kim from her position at the tactical console. "Orders, sir?" Admiral Kim watched the machines approach. He thought about Earth, about the storms that could tear apart buildings, about the earthquakes that could swallow cities, about the thousands of things that tried to kill humans every single day, and about how humanity learned to fight back against all of it. "Show them what a death world builds," he said quietly. The human fleet powered up its weapons, and the Velhari, watching from their dying ships, saw something they had never imagined. They had asked the universe for help. The universe had sent them something far more terrifying. It had sent them Deathworlders. The first shots came from the Indomitable. Railgun rounds moving at a fraction of light speed. The Velhari had never seen weapons like these. The rounds were simple chunks of metal accelerated to impossible speeds. No fancy energy weapons. No elegant technology. Just brutal physics. The Harvester drones had armor designed to deflect energy beams. Their shields could absorb most conventional attacks, but they were not ready for solid projectiles moving faster than meteors. The first rounds punched through 3 drones before anyone realized what had happened. Envoy Relthin stood on the bridge of the Indomitable and felt his entire understanding of the universe crack apart. He was Velhari like all his people. Insectoid body, compound eyes, natural empathy that let him sense emotions around him. Right now he sensed absolutely nothing from the humans. They felt cold, empty, focused. Admiral Kim stood at the center of the bridge giving orders in a calm voice. "Fire pattern Delta. Target the command nodes. Adjust for drift." His hands did not shake. His voice did not waver. He was ordering death like someone ordering coffee. The Harvester fleet reacted. They were machines, but smart ones. They recognized the human ships as the bigger threat and redirected their forces. Hundreds of drones began moving toward the human fleet. Relthin expected the humans to retreat. Any sane species would retreat against such numbers. The humans accelerated toward them. Captain Park commanded the Typhoon from her bridge. The destroyer was smaller than the Indomitable, but just as deadly. She watched the tactical display show Harvester drones surrounding them. Her crew looked nervous. She smiled. "Good," she said. "They are grouping up. Makes targeting easier. Fire missiles. Full spread." The Typhoon launched 40 missiles at once. But these were not guidance missiles. They were nuclear warheads. Small ones by human standards, only a few kilotons each. But in space, even small nuclear weapons were devastating. The explosions created blooms of radiation and heat. 15 Harvester drones simply ceased to exist. 20 more were damaged badly enough to fall out of formation. The Velhari watching from their ships felt sick. The humans had just used weapons that could destroy cities. In the opening seconds of the battle, Relthin could not stay quiet. "Those weapons," he said to Admiral Kim. "You use planet destroyers as regular weapons?" Kim glanced at him. "These are tactical nukes. Very small. We save the planet destroyers for special occasions." Relthan realized the Admiral was serious. His species had weapons that could crack worlds, and they considered those special occasions. What kind of beings were these humans? Lieutenant Kang led her fighter squadron into the chaos. 20 small craft against hundreds of drones. Terrible odds. But Kang had trained her entire life for this. She grew up on Earth where the gravity tried to crush you, where the air was thick and heavy. Her reflexes were faster than any Velhari pilot. Her tolerance for G-forces was beyond what most species could survive. She dove through Harvester Point defense like a dancer. Her fighters moved in patterns that should have been impossible. They flew close enough to the drones to seem suicidal. Then they fired precision torpedoes at the coordination nodes that let the harvesters work together. The harvesters adapted. Of course they did. They were smart machines. They changed their tactics, spread out, tried to surround the human fleet. But humans adapted faster. Admiral Kim watched the battle evolve in real time. He saw the harvesters adjusting their formation and immediately changed his strategy. All ships pattern Sigma. Focus fire on the capital vessels. Let the fighters handle the drones. The human capital ships concentrated their fire on the largest harvester constructs. These were massive things built to dismantle space stations. Their armor was thick. Their shields were powerful. The human weapons tore through them anyway. Then something happened that made Relthan's blood run cold. A harvester capital ship managed to hit the Typhoon with a direct blast from its main weapon. The destroyer's shields failed. Its armor breached. It began venting atmosphere. Relthan thought the ship was finished. Any Velhari vessel taking that much damage would retreat or surrender. Captain Park did neither. All crew to escape pods, Park ordered. She evacuated everyone except herself. Then she aimed her dying ship at the harvester capital vessel and engaged maximum thrust. Admiral Kim watched from the Indomitable. He understood immediately what Park was doing. He wanted to order her to stop. He wanted to tell her to evacuate. But he knew she would not listen. And he knew she was right. The Typhoon accelerated toward the harvester ship. The machines tried to destroy it, to shoot it down, but Park flew through their fire like a veteran. At the last second, she activated her emergency transporter and beamed herself into space in a survival suit. The Typhoon continued on its course alone. The collision was spectacular. The destroyer hit the harvester capital ship at full speed. The kinetic energy was enormous. Both vessels tore apart in a ball of fire and debris. One human ship for one harvester capital vessel. Park thought it was a fair trade. Relthan stood on the bridge and trembled. She sacrificed her ship. She nearly died, and everyone is treating it like a tactical success. Dr. Minji Choi was in the medical bay when the wounded started arriving. Burns, broken bones, radiation exposure. She worked frantically to save them all. Each casualty felt like a personal failure. Each death made her angrier at Admiral Kim for bringing them here. Commander Bay found her there hours into the battle. His Marines had not deployed yet, but he was checking on the wounded. He saw the look on Minji's face. "You are angry," he said. 347 dead. Minji snapped. "For what? To prove we are good at killing?" Bay looked at the wounded around them. "To save 4 billion Velhari who would have died without us. 300 of ours for 4 billion of theirs. It is not a choice I like, but it is the choice we have," Minji wanted to argue. She wanted to say there must be a better way. But she looked at the casualties and knew Bay was right. The Velhari could not fight the harvesters. Without human intervention, they would all die. Sometimes violence was the only answer to violence. The battle lasted 6 hours. To the Velhari, it felt like an eternity. To the humans, it was a relatively short engagement. By the end, the harvester fleet was in full retreat. They had never retreated before. In thousands of years of recorded galactic history, the harvesters always completed their mission. They always dismantled their targets. They always won, until they met humanity. The surviving harvester drones calculated their losses and made a decision. These new arrivals were too costly to fight. The resources required to defeat them exceeded the resources they would gain. They withdrew to find easier targets. On Velhari Prime, Sylvesh stood at her observation window and watched the impossible happen. The harvesters were leaving. Her people were saved. She felt joy and terror in equal measure. The humans had won. They had done what no other species could do. But the cost. She opened a communication channel to the Indomitable. Admiral Kim appeared on her screen. He looked tired but calm. "Thank you," Sylvesh said. Her voice shook. You saved us, all of us. We are in your debt, Kim nodded. We came because you asked for help. That is what good people do. They help when asked. Sylvesh hesitated. Your people. You fight so well. Like you were born for war. Kim smiled, but it was a sad smile. We were born on a world that tried to kill us every day. We learned to fight back or die. It is not something we are proud of. But it is what we are. The human fleet established orbit around Velhari Prime. They began rescue operations, helping repair the damaged orbital stations and recovering survivors. The Velhari people came out to see their saviors. They expected heroes. They found something else. Humans were not tall or strong by Velhari standards. They moved efficiently but not gracefully. They smiled and were friendly, but there was something in their eyes. Something hard. Something that had seen too much death and learned to accept it. Relthin spent days among the human crew. He used his empathy to sense their emotions. What he found disturbed him. They felt guilt for the lives lost. They felt satisfaction at saving the Velhari. But underneath it all was something else. A coldness. An acceptance of violence as a tool. They had killed hundreds of harvesters and they felt nothing about it. He found Lieutenant Kang in the fighter bay. She was checking her ship's weapons. He asked her how she felt about the battle. Kang looked at him with calm eyes. I feel good that we saved your people. I feel sad that we lost crew. I do not feel anything about the harvesters. They were intelligent beings, Relthin said. Does that not matter? Kang shook her head. They were killing your people. They would have killed all of you. When something threatens innocent lives, you stop it. How you feel about it does not matter. That night, Admiral Kim received new intelligence from Earth. Long-range sensors had detected more distress signals, dozens of them, all across this region of space, all mentioning the harvesters. The galaxy was burning and humanity had just announced itself. Kim called a meeting with his senior staff. Dr. Choi, Captain Park, Commander Bay, Lieutenant Kang, and Envoy Relthin all gathered in the conference room. We have a choice, Kim said. We can return to Earth. Our mission is complete. We made first contact. We helped a species in need, or we can stay and help the others. Dr. Choi spoke first. If we stay, we commit to more violence. The celebration lasted exactly 12 hours. 12 hours of the galaxy rejoicing that the harvester threat was ended. 12 hours before the deep space sensors detected something new approaching, something worse. Admiral Kim stood in the Coalition Command Center on Velhari Prime. Around him were leaders from every member species. Sylvesh for the Velhari, Nisisol for the Thalen, Kretak for the Rin, Tilrex for the Korvax, and newly arrived representatives from Earth's government. The holographic display showed 12 massive contacts approaching from deep space. Each one was larger than any ship in the Coalition fleet. They were moving at speeds that should have been impossible. What are they? Sylvesh asked. Her voice trembled. Tilrex consulted his data. They are sentinels. The precursor's final failsafe, designed to eliminate any species capable of defeating the harvesters. The room fell silent. They had won against the harvesters, and by winning, they had triggered something worse. The sentinels broadcast a message. It was cold, mechanical, absolute. Species designation humanity classified as existential threat. Coalition species classified as compromised. Termination authorized. Nisisol turned to Kim. They are coming for all of us because we allied with you. Kim nodded. I am sorry. We brought this on you. Sylvesh made a sharp gesture. No. The harvesters would have killed us all eventually. You gave us a chance to fight. Now we fight again. But not everyone agreed. The Coalition Emergency Council convened. Some species argued for surrendering humanity to the Sentinels. If they gave up the humans, maybe the Sentinels would leave them alone. Dr. Choi sat in the council chamber and listened to the debate. She felt sick. Her people had come to help. Now they were the reason for a new threat. A Thalen representative stood. We should consider all options. If surrendering the humans saves billions of lives, is it not the logical choice? Envoy Relthin rose to his feet. His voice carried across the chamber. 3 months ago, I was terrified of humans. I thought they were monsters. I watched them fight with a violence I could not understand. But I also watched them sacrifice themselves for strangers. I watched them teach us to defend ourselves. I watched them cry for our dead. He paused. The Sentinels will not stop with humanity. They see all of us as threats now. We can surrender and die as cowards, or we can fight and die with honor. I choose to fight. Kretak stood next. The Rin stand with humanity. They taught us courage, Silva stood. The Velhari owe humanity everything. We will not abandon them. Even Nisisal, who had been most afraid of humans, finally stood. The Thalen will fight. Not because we are warriors, but because it is the right thing to do. The vote was unanimous. The coalition would stand together. Earth sent reinforcements. Every ship they could spare. The Second Fleet arrived with Admiral Kim's old friend, Admiral Heejin Shin, in command. She brought fresh ships, new weapons, and 5,000 Marines. But even with reinforcements, the odds were terrible. The Sentinels were more advanced than the Harvesters. Their shields were impenetrable to conventional weapons. Their firepower could vaporize capital ships. Dr. Choi worked with Tilrex to find a weakness. They analyzed the Sentinel energy signatures. They studied the precursor technology. And finally, they found something. The Sentinels used quantum reactors for power. These reactors were incredibly efficient but had one weakness. They could be disrupted by a specific resonance frequency. If the Coalition could hit all 12 Sentinels simultaneously with that frequency, their shields would fail for exactly 3 seconds. 3 seconds to destroy 12 capital ships that individually outclassed anything in the fleet. 3 seconds that required perfect coordination across dozens of vessels. Admiral Kim looked at the battle plan. It was insane. Impossible. Perfectly human. Can we do it? He asked strategist Koren. Koren studied the plan. His Velari mind analyzed every possibility. Then he smiled. It is insane. It is impossible. It might just work. The Coalition fleet assembled. 89 ships. 23,000 personnel. Every species represented. They knew most of them would not survive. But they also knew they had no choice. Admiral Park was given command of the Suicide Squadron, ships designated to ram Sentinel vessels if the plan failed. She accepted the command without hesitation. If ramming worked once, it could work again. Commander Bay prepared his Marines for boarding actions. If they could get inside a Sentinel vessel, they might be able to disable it from within. Long odds, but better than nothing. Lieutenant Kang coordinated the fighter wings. Human, Rin, and even some brave Velhari pilots. They would create chaos, distract the Sentinels, buy time for the capital ships. The night before the battle, Envoy Relthan found Admiral Kim in the observation deck. "Do you think we can win?" Relthan asked. Kim looked out at the fleet. Honest answer? No. But humans do not win because we are stronger or smarter. We win because we refuse to quit, even when we should. The Sentinels arrived exactly when predicted. 12 massive vessels that made the Harvester capital ships look like toys. They moved into formation around Velhari Prime. Then they began their attack. The first demonstration was devastating. A single Sentinel fired on Velhari's orbital defense platform. The platform simply ceased to exist. No explosion, no debris, just gone. Converted to energy, it was a warning, a show of force. The Sentinels were giving them one last chance to surrender. Admiral Kim opened a channel to all coalition forces, to every species that called this region home, to the galaxy that was watching. Today we face extinction, he said. These machines think they can judge us. They think they can eliminate us for the crime of being strong. They are wrong. We do not fight for humanity today. We fight for the right to exist, for the right to survive in a universe that keeps trying to kill us. Today we fight for each other. The Coalition fleet advanced, and the Sentinels opened fire. The battle was hell. Sentinel weapons cut through ships like paper. Coalition vessels exploded or were simply vaporized. Fighters were swatted from space like insects. The casualties mounted faster than anyone could count. But the Coalition kept fighting, kept adapting, kept pushing forward. Dr. Choi broadcast the resonance frequency from the Indomitable. The signal spread across the fleet. Every ship equipped with the right equipment began transmitting. For a moment, nothing happened. The Sentinels continued their assault. More ships died. More people died. Then the shields flickered. 3 seconds. That was all they had. Admiral Park's squadron fired everything they had. Nuclear missiles, railgun rounds, kinetic torpedoes. All targeted at the vulnerable. Sentinels, Lieutenant Kang's fighters dove through point defense to deliver precision strikes. The Velharian Rin vessels coordinated their fire with human precision. 3 seconds of perfect coordination. 3 seconds of combined firepower from 89 ships. It was enough. 3 Sentinel vessels exploded outright. 4 more were crippled. The remaining 5 began to adapt, their shields coming back online. But the Coalition had proven something important. The Sentinels could be hurt. Commander Bay led his boarding teams onto one of the crippled Sentinels. They fought through automated defenses, found the core systems, and discovered something shocking. The Sentinels were not fully artificial. Inside the machines were preserved consciousness. The precursors themselves. They had uploaded their minds into these vessels to personally enforce their will across eternity. Bay opened a channel to Admiral Kim. "Sir, these things, they are not machines. They are ghosts. The precursors are still alive in here." Kim felt a chill. They imprisoned themselves. To police the galaxy forever, he knew what had to be done. But first he needed to talk to them. He connected to the Sentinel Core intelligence. The consciousness inside responded. It showed him everything. Millennia of watching civilizations rise and fall, wars that burned worlds, species that destroyed themselves, and the precursors' choice to sacrifice their own freedom to prevent it from happening again. "You failed," Kim said simply. "You became what you feared. You became the destroyers." The intelligence paused. Then it showed him more. All the species they had eliminated. All the worlds they had saved by destroying the threats before they could rise. From their perspective, it was mercy. Kim shook his head. "You forgot why life matters. You forgot that species deserve the chance to choose their own path, even if they choose wrong. That is what freedom means." For a long moment, the intelligence was silent. Then it did something unexpected. It began to shut down. The Sentinel broadcast one final message. "You are correct. We have failed. We have become the thing we sought to prevent. Guard this galaxy better than we did. Do not repeat our mistakes." Across all the remaining Sentinel vessels, the precursor consciousness chose to end. After millions of years of existence, they finally allowed themselves to die. The battle ended. Not with a final explosion, but with silence. The Sentinels powered down. The threat was over. The cost was staggering. 47 ships destroyed, 12,000 dead. More than half the Coalition fleet was gone. But they had won. In the aftermath, the galaxy changed. The Coalition became permanent. Earth was granted full representation in galactic government. Humans and aliens worked together to rebuild what was lost. Dr. Choi established an institute dedicated to peaceful integration, helping species adapt without losing their identity.